arrived in time over here. We have a Rus versus Chinese matchup coming in here on Lipany. Mountain clearing is going to be the home map of puppypaw, and VortiX will be playing on Woodwall if we get there. Crackedy, it's going to be Rus Chinese. First time we see this matchup today. What do you expect here for game number one?
Rus is one of the strongest civilizations in the game at the moment, but China also really, really strong. And we're jumping straight into the game right now. VortiX with the Rus against puppypaw's Chinese. This is a really fast transition right now into the game. All right. Yeah, China, obviously still a very, very strong civilization. I think it's probably going to be on par with the Rus overall. When it comes to both civilizations, they like to go for that second TC, but obviously the Chinese with their Song Dynasty, as long as the game kind of continues going on without too much damage being done by the Rus, China is going to be pull ahead with that Song Dynasty bonus. The Chinese player also has a lot of additional line of sight on their starting scout, or like on their scouts in general in the Tang Dynasty. So that helps him a lot when it comes to finding those deer early on, trying to deny bounty. And it means that puppypaw is actually not going to invest into a second scout here, which is going to mean that he's going to be one villager ahead. Overall, when it comes to how they would normally play, and yeah, he already found those deer over there. Yeah, it's gonna be good for him because he already found both of these deer spots, and VortiX is going to go for wheelbarrow really, really early here. Do hope that not the same thing happens to him than what happened to Beastie early on in the previous set, where he went for wheelbarrow and then didn't have enough gold to age up.
Yeah, he's going to avoid that for sure. It is looking like we do have 3 scouts, as you mentioned, for VortiX. Looking at the map spawns, we do have very well defendable starting bases for both players here, actually. A lot of cliffs have spawned, kind of surrounding the starting base of each player. Who do you think does that favor here in a Rus versus Chinese matchup?
Looking at the economy right now, okay, VortiX's food is all to push towards one side when it comes to the hunt build. So he's got both the deer and the boar on one side here. That could be a really, really good spot to put aggression on for puppypaw. Then again, in that matchup, China is probably not the civilization to put up too much early aggression on against the Rus, just because the Rus, they do have those knights, they do have really, really good wood income. They can mass a lot of archers early on. Personally, I think China probably will want to play this up until Castle Age, because as I mentioned earlier, just these knights, they are so oppressive in those fights, and especially when both players scale the economy really well. Those big knight fights, China has to be a little bit aware of them. Sure, there are arguments for Zhugunu probably can carry that. Oh yeah, we do have that. Oh no.
That's so frustrating when you're just down by 8 gold and you have to wait for that passive gold income to come in from the hunting cabin to get that Feudal Age. It's going to delay him by a couple of seconds, but still will likely have a slightly faster Feudal Age time than puppypaw will. Puppy only building that Barbican with 2 villagers. It's a lovely spot for that Barbican at the front. It's going to secure the hunt, but even more importantly probably, it secures that choke point, that critical choke point that leads directly into the base of Puppy.
Yeah, it's going to be quite nice here, especially with the deer being there. And it also gives him like this access to this little bit of a hill, a little bit of a cliff there, where if he builds another outpost on there, or even better, if he builds his Imperial Academy, not Imperial Academy, Imperial Palace on this cliff, he's going to be basically seeing the entire map with that one landmark. And now the landmark is going to go up. Scouts arrive, but I mean, they're not really going to be able to get anything done here. The deer are going to be safe, and VortiX is going to have to look for information somewhere else. But yeah, this also means that the base from puppypaw is going to be relatively easily wallable, just from woodline to woodline. And the Kremlins are also going to have to take some odd paths in order to get to the base of puppypaw, which obviously with the gremlins being on a timer, is going to help puppypaw quite a bit.
Yeah, that's indeed a very good value, as you mentioned. 10 seconds delay is immensely valuable when you talk about those Kremlin militias popping out. Looks like it's going to be a second TC for VortiX here. He's going to have the stone already being mined. Of course, Kremlin is going to boost his lumberjacking. Whereas on the other side, Song Dynasty comes in first for puppypaw. This will be scouted by VortiX. Question is, are we going to see a second TC right after Song Dynasty here from Puppy?
I think he should definitely go for it. I mean, he is going to be scouting that stone mine from VortiX in just a little bit. And he should probably already move villagers to reassign them to different tasks. Right now, he still has a lot of villagers over on food. He's still in Tang Dynasty, so he should have line of sight of that stone mine. And yeah, he should definitely know that he can definitely or should definitely go for a second TC here.
Yeah, Song
All
Dynasty
right,
just
still
now finishes.
Yeah, still no villager movement here from puppypaw. He's still heavy on food, and I'm not sure why. Kongs from barracks now, okay. But he should know that there is not even a stable out right now for VortiX. Maybe he's gonna try and send some spears forward, so maybe he wants to deny or delay the second TC from VortiX, but the resources are already gathered, so timing for that isn't quite there. Maybe he just feels too annoyed by these scouts and wants to have them gone here.
I think he's threatened by knights. You're up against Ruse. He does have a scout in the base of VortiX, so he kind of knows what VortiX is up to, but you still have to respect the ability of the Ruse to pop out some knights, so could be signs of that. Could of course be signs that he wants to start building up those spearman numbers, maybe start mixing in some Chukanus, play a little bit more aggressively, but initially it's just about pushing away those scouts, and of course making sure you don't get surprised by those knights, especially on the stone.
Yeah, it might have also just been a case of where he wants to deny vision from VortiX so that VortiX doesn't know exactly what puppypaw is up to. But VortiX, he does have another scout on the opposite side of puppypaw's base, and he knows that puppypaw just moved out to stone, and now he's sending in 4 militia on that side. So the TC very unlikely to be going up on like forward position here on the map for puppypaw.
Yeah, militia's just now coming in. But Puppypaw should have enough villagers over here to scare them away from the stone. Not so much from the gold. He's going to have to evacuate this.
He only
And
needs 900
with the extra
in order
drop-off,
to...
he should have enough.
Yeah, there we go. Now he should have enough. He can just force drop off that stone and be able to build that TC. Is he going to go for a third TC? He's still gathering stone right now.
Yeah, I think he's just making sure.
No. I mean, with the Imperial Official, he definitely had enough. It looks like he went for like the normal number with 850 remaining in there. But yeah, now he's going to be able to build his second TC. He's going to build it safe. In a really, really safe position here. And right now, it's incredible, right? Like Song Dynasty, Puppypaw, even though his TC is probably like half a minute late right now in this game, and VortiX has had his TC up for like a minute by now, Puppypaw is still ahead when it comes to villagers. So right now it's 31 villagers to 32 villagers, and VortiX is now building up his military numbers. Added multiple archery ranges, is now continuing to mass up his archer mass. And oh, this is an awkward timing. Why is Puppypaw going out to berries right now? He has the deer safely under his barbican. Instead, he chooses to go out onto the berries right now. Is he making an outpost on these berries? This is a little bit of an interesting and even maybe concerning move. I mean, I guess maybe he considers these deer to be so safe he wants to save them for a little bit and wants to go to them later on.
I was
But
thinking
this is
about
concerning
the same.
right now.
It's an awkward choice, but when you have the supervisor, the Chinese, it's not so inefficient, quote unquote, as it would be for some other civilizations to do this.
True.
And it really feels like he just wants to grab those resources on the north because he knows it's going to be exposed in the next few minutes, whereas the Barbican is going to protect his hunt for a long time. But when you compare that, like the villagers on the berries, even with the supervise, with what VortiX has, the boars, the hunts, you feel like this is still very inefficient compared to what VortiX has available.
Yeah, I mean, the food income right now is still looking very similar. The wood, not so much. Puppypaw is now also going to be making a couple of horsemen, but there are already almost 10 archers out on the field, and Puppypaw, he just doesn't have the military mass or quality in order to fight against these knights, and now there's going to be a sneaky knight going towards the berries here from Puppypaw, and now he's not going to be so sneaky anymore.
Archer numbers rising over here for VortiX. He's turning those resources into army now, whereas for Puppypaw, he's just now starting to add in horsemen. He's got a lead of 5 villagers so far, But he needs to be cautious because the knight numbers are increasing and we're getting closer and closer to the stage where VortiX can start thinking about being a little bit more aggressive with those knights, possibly diving under towers, maybe even town centers, for the purpose of killing 1 or 2 villagers and kind of equalizing those villager numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now he does need to do some damage at some point, right? Because the food economy is just going to be way better here for Puppy. Knight actually going down here. That's unlucky. You really need as many knights as possible. Now Puppypaw also just paying attention, sending a couple of spears to the opposite side of his base in order to deny any vision, potentially from a scout being there. But guess he didn't attack move them as it's just passing right now. VortiX just rallying his units next to his boar right now. Doesn't look like he's going to be macroing up to Castle Age anytime soon. I think he's doing the right thing, which is just staying in Feudal Age for now. But he needs to take a fight soon, because right now Puppypaw is also transitioning into Jugunu, and once he gets like a really big army of like all these 3 units, Jugunu, Spearmen, and Horsemen, it could become really difficult for VortiX to take good engagements.
Yeah, that's the scary detail, right? Once both players have a fully functioning economy with good villager numbers, the Chinese can just turn that into an army so rapidly with the supervise. In a blink of an eye, they can go from 2 Chukanus to 20, 30, and that could be a nasty surprise for VortiX. Right now, it's mostly Spearmen and a handful of Horsemen slash Chukanu for Puppy. But as you mentioned, this could soon turn into a massive military advantage for Puppy, and this is something that VortiX does have to respect.
Yeah, Puppy is now on to deer, so now his food economy is very likely going to skyrocket. VortiX's food economy is also looking really solid, mostly because he's been on these huntables for a very, very long time. Puppypaw only just now moving out to his first deer pack, still has another deer pack for himself. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of archery ranges, so Jugunu Mass is going to be out in force here for Puppypaw. I think... Okay, it looks like VortiX is gonna try a big push now. He just redeemed all of his tickets from his Kremlin. This is gonna be the timing that he wants to make work, and knights are gonna be arriving first onto the berry bushes here. Imperial official is gonna jump inside the outpost. Very likely not gonna be alive there for long, but at least he doesn't die immediately. Puppypaw might even be able to sneak that one out here. Militia are now also going to make their way, but they're going to be finding Jugunu, and once they find Jugunu, they're not going to be so happy. Puppypaw is going to have to pull a lot of villagers now. There's a couple of units, villagers going down as they're trying to flee from the army here. A lot of villagers go down. Puppypaw is still with the villager lead, but this is a lot of idle time right now coming out for him. All the militia are going to go down here, and at the end of the day, Puppypaw not looking to be in too bad of a position. Obviously, all these villagers going down are going to be kind of hurting him. Overall, though, he's still ahead when it comes to villagers, and with the Imperial official, he is still going to have a better economy overall than VortiX is.
Yeah, VortiX got repelled over here. Kremlin militias mostly got taken down. He gets away with 7 villager kills in total, but he's going to have to regroup. And now we are getting close to the stage where Puppy does have those seemingly overwhelming Chukanu numbers. He's up to 25, and he's just bumping out Chukanu from 4 ranges. Tower will get torched down, but Puppy is going to have a strong defensive position over here. He's now shifting his villagers towards the Barbican and the Hunt, so he does have that backup food to work with. Wood is a bigger concern, though. He's very low on that, and that's going to haunt him. So does the fact that he's lacking blacksmith upgrades as this fight commences.
That's huge. That's huge. Not having blacksmith upgrades, especially against archers with Shigunu, that hurts a lot. Okay, now he's grabbing them. I hope he's going to send an Imperial official out there to supervise that blacksmith. There it is. Okay, he is supervising that. So they're going to be coming in the next minute. Good thing that fight didn't commit, like Lucifer didn't, VortiX, I'm sorry, didn't commit to that fight. Yeah, sometimes can be hard to differentiate these brothers, but yeah, VortiX is going to macro up to Castle Age here now behind this. Puppypaw is doing the same thing. Both players are really, really close to Castle Age here. But once Puppypaw gets up, I feel like Jugunu in Castle Age, they're still very, very strong of our unit, and very much stronger so than normal archers.
Oh, this could be a trap.
Oh no, VortiX knows about this.
Yeah, that's terrible. Even if the walls go up, there's nowhere to go with those vills. Puppypaw realizes that this is a big weakness. He's going to shift his army there. He's actually sending a couple of spears to deal with that scout, but he still needs to be cautious. Some of the villagers are heavily damaged over here. Scout will be taken down by the spears, and I think the tower should complete in time. But in the meantime, Archer's moving on the north, getting a lot of villager picks. It's good value, really good value for VortiX, and now the Knights swing in, another couple of picks happening. Two-pronged attack here by VortiX as he's going up to Castle Age, whereas on the other side, out of nowhere, puppypaw is just kind of falling apart. That push on the food eco, now he's missing out on a Castle Age timing here. It's getting increasingly worrisome for him.
I think it's still fine, because as soon as he gets up, he can supervise his important technologies, so he will be fine when it comes to transition. I think at the beginning, it looked like he was about to make some walls on his tiers, and I think that would have been the right decision here for him, just to wall that in a little bit more, just make it so that Knights can't just immediately dive on that. And yeah, overall, I think he's still not looking too bad. He's at almost 50 Jugunu right now, so 51 Jugunu right out on the field right now for him. Astronomical Clock Tower is going to finish within the next 30 seconds here for him. And then he just needs to rush up the important techs, so +2 pierce damage, get the veterancy on the Jugunu, veterancy on the Spearman. He can just supervise the buildings for that, and then he will have these upgrades at roughly the same time that VortiX will have his upgrades. But VortiX is going to push the issue right now.
Yeah, that's good timing for VortiX. He's going to have the upgrades in just before the Castle Age finishes for puppypaw. Puppy's got 50 Chukunu. If he gets the upgrades in, he's going to have a competitive army over here. VortiX with little siege. He's not going to be able to push this DC here. He's just trying to dive on the Lumberjacks. Lumberjacks do have to flee to the south, but Puppy isn't going to lose a single villager. Chukunu upgrades coming in. Bit of a pedestrian pace, no supervision coming in for those upgrades. And VortiX knows this.
That hurts.
He now knows that there are no upgrades for his opponent, and he's going to push this one. Takes the fight before the upgrades finish for Puppy, focusing down most of the spears. Archer's diving deeper and deeper. Now it's a Castle Age army against the Feudal Age one. VortiX, he's going to take this fight over here. Spearman just microing back and forth here for puppypaw, trying to keep it alive. Nest of Bees coming in clutch, but so are the militias.
Gremlins. Oh, this hurts. This hurts. I mean, the Nest of Bee is here, so overall the fight is going to go puppypaw's way. The Knights are also slowly dying. But yeah, I think this was just a major mistake from puppypaw, not supervising these buildings, and he did lose a ton of villagers. Overall, he's still not too far behind, as he is Chinese, but 28 villagers that have died so far for puppypaw. And even though he just defeated the army from VortiX, he's going to walk all of his villagers back to that woodline that he's just been scared away from. Behind this, VortiX, at the very least, isn't gathering relics yet, so there's no immediate need for puppypaw to rush out onto map. Finally, veterancy on the Shugunu completes. But it's just, that fight could have gone so much better for puppypaw if he had grabbed those upgrades.
Yeah, and the other thing, if you look at puppypaw, this is the second time where he was distracted on one front. VortiX pushes it on another side and does a lot of eco damage. Here, all the focus from puppypaw was in the middle on that fight, and he didn't notice the militias in time slaying his villagers. His villager count is still competitive, but so much eco damage has been done by VortiX. So much idle time, a lot of damaged villagers. And if you look at the value destroyed, you'd be actually surprised to see that puppypaw has done more damage when it comes to the army than VortiX did, actually.
Yeah, it was a lot of units that VortiX lost in that previous engagement. Once again, VortiX just looping around here a little bit, trying to find these angles that he's so good at, with which he can take fights, and at the same time, just sending a couple of militia to the opposite side of the map, just looking for any potential villagers that are trying to get the resource right now. Puppypaw looks like he's frantically gathering stone right now. I think he wants to drop a keep to just finally be done with these raids, at least on some resources. He probably wants to just secure some resource in order to finally have some peace of mind when it comes to these constant raids that have been coming out from VortiX here all game.
Yeah, puppypaw is stabilizing though. He's getting some walls to the south. He's fortifying the east as well. And it looks like Escor is pointing out to us basically no relics to work with. That's a key thing here, especially with the Rus being on the playing field. In fact, we just now have a monastery come up for VortiX. Puppypaw does have one too. Voya's Fortitude now on the way. We have quite a few knights, a lot of horsemen as well for VortiX to work with. And on the other side, only a handful of spearmen. Most of the army that Puppy is building right now is crossbows. That's going to be a nasty surprise when he matches up against those horsemen.
Yeah, I mean, he still has some spearmen, but he's not massing too many of them right now. He just can't really afford the the food cost of these spearmen. Now, once again, the entire army from puppypaw has been led to one side of the map, and VortiX just uses that timing to push with the rest of his army on the opposite side. Now there's going to be a keep rushed up by puppypaw, but this keep doesn't really protect any resources. It does protect the entry to the base, but no resources are going to be protected here by that keep, and that's going to be crucial, I feel like, because, I mean, where are these villagers going to go now? Because Vorti is just going to drop a keep there. He's going to secure the large gold in the middle. He's going to secure one of the sacred sites, a relic. He's got warrior monks out on the field right now. He's looking in a really, really commanding spot right now.
Yeah. Right now, Puppy is confined into his base, and you see there is a group of units from VortiX on the north. There is this force to the south. The keep is going up as well, and Puppy completely out of food. Of course, he could make a transition to farms, but when you have so limited access to wood even, that's going to be a challenge as well. This pressure, this kind of suffocation style approach from VortiX is working wonders right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you have to play against China. You can't, like, have that. Sometimes players, they kind of are content with denying deer, something like that. Just being on the deer and just making sure that the Chinese player can't get to these outer resources. I think you need to do that as well as Prod, like VortiX is doing here. Just hit them every now and then, keep them active, make sure that they're investing into units and not into a potential farm transition. And now the units here from puppypaw are going to be out of position, and these are all Jugunu and crossbows. They're going to die. They're going to get insanely counted by all of these horsemen. VortiX, he has a lot of them. Oh my. I mean, puppypaw
push
now
into
he's
the
trying to
eco,
get
but
outputs up.
There's the push with the horsemen. And this was a beautiful preemptive counterplay by VortiX. He saw the crossbows coming. That was a response, natural response to his knights. And he just goes horseman, completely catches puppypaw off guard. Now he's scrambling for towers. Here comes the cavalry. Not enough garrison space for all these villagers. And VortiX could commit. He could slaughter so many villagers over here, despite forces being present from Puppy. It's 70 army versus 25. There is the push. Even a trebuchet joins the fun, as the archers will just get rid of most of the Chukunu. Nest of Bees will be wiped out by the horsemen, and all the villagers just have to stay inside those town centers as they watch that army disappear from the map from puppypaw.
Yeah, no spears means that all of these horsemen just have free reign on these Nest of Bees, and I mean, the trebuchet is existing, but puppypaw's army isn't. It's 50-1 military, and puppypaw, he doesn't have the food income in order to produce anything, any units right now. He's got more Nest of Bees in the queue. He needs the wood at the same time, though, for his farm transition, which is still going on at the same time. Lots of villagers idle. 60 villagers idle right now for puppypaw, either inside villagers, TCs, or inside the Barbican. And he's struggling right now to put anything up on the field. VortiX once again retreating for the time being, but I mean, it's all just preparation for finishing puppypaw off sometime soon here.
Yeah, absolutely. If VortiX knew how big of an advantage he has on the military department, he would just dive in. This is one of those cases where probably VortiX sitting there is just saying, there's no way that all the army he has is like one trebuchet, right? Well, turns out that that's actually the case. Puppypaw will be given a bit of a room over here, but his position is far from something that you would envy. He's confined into his base. VortiX is picking up the relics from all across the map. He's securing map control, kind of stripping the map barren of resources, while also maintaining, you know, just casually a 20 times larger army than what Puppypaw has right now.
Yeah, and he's also walling in the entire middle, so making sure that there aren't any like sneaky raids from Puppypaw, making sure that Puppypaw isn't gonna be having access to any part of the map that's like past his half. Now units once again running forward, still has a lot of horsemen, even 10 more horsemen in the queue. That's a lot of archers and crossbows right now that are just gonna be running past the Barbican, taking down another Imperial official here, and even the Barbican is just gonna get torched down right now.
Yeah, at this point, the army lead for VortiX is so major that there's not much that Puppypaw can do to stop this. Even a Spring Old placement isn't going to do anything good here at this point. And Military Academy is just now coming in for VortiX. His build-up of army is going to be even more rapid. Well, unless he actually gets to pop cap, which is going to happen in a matter of seconds. And in that case, he's going to start working towards Imp. He could even pop Malicious, as Core is pointing out. But I really feel like he doesn't need it, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's just no way for Puppypaw to come back in this game, and Yeah, it's gonna be really, really rough here. There's also a boar, which we haven't been seeing on the map because it was pulled earlier. So there's this thing where if you pull a boar to the max distance, it disappears off the map. I think maybe puppypaw could have used that instead of the berries, but once again, horsemen are just gonna be running right under those nests of bees. Now there is a keep, so it looks like these horsemen are gonna get cleaned up. They're still gonna take a second nest of bees with them though, and yeah, once again, I mean that pays for themselves. These horsemen definitely paid for themselves here. And now the high armory is going to be coming in. I feel like as soon as that H4 landmark is going to be completed, puppypaw should probably be throwing in the towel, because I think that's just going to be a ram push to kill him off.
Yeah, at this point, it's not a matter of who, it's a matter of when. There is the Imperial Age coming in, as you mentioned. At the very latest, at that time, puppypaw should know that there is just no way out of this one. He's deprived of resources, basically no access to wood, limited gold available, his farm transition is still not complete, he's walled off from most of those critical resources, cavalry is now available for VortiX to do all those raids, and as you mentioned, once siege starts to appear on the field, Puppy's base will just disappear in the blink of an eye.
Something interesting to know is that the militia from the Kremlin, they actually upgrade themselves automatically with every single age up. So they, Imperial Age militia, are actually quite strong. So, this hurts so much. Even more villagers going down there on the berries. Puppypaw, he's lost 66 villagers so far. It's kind of insane that he's still sitting at above 100 villagers right now in the game. And now H4 completes. Puppypaw still in it, hasn't left the game yet. Still trying to stick this one out. Food income, not looking too great right now. And VortiX, he's going to be massing up some bombards, and he's going to be trying to finish this game up soon, very, very soon here, because, I mean, let's be honest here, a couple of Palace Guards, a single nest of bee, probably not going to be able to make anything major happening here. Puppypaw still gathering a lot of stone, maybe trying to get some more keeps out on the map in his base in order to defend himself. But once those bombards roll out, they're going to be able to take these keeps down very, very quickly.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel like VortiX is winning? He's got the Sacred Site countdown going. He's got Imp, he's 200 pop against 136. Almost triple the army of Puppypaws. Is there even a chance here for Puppypaw? I guess this is actually a good question to ask right now, especially from a high-level player like yourself. What is Puppypaw playing for? Sure enough, he doesn't see the status of the population, but he does see the Sacred Site countdown. He does know that he's one age behind. What's the mindset of Puppypaw here trying to play onto this?
All right, so first of all, map control is going to be a no for him. He can't really take any map control at this point in the game, at least not military-wise. What he could be aiming to do is try and just push VortiX back a little bit for now. Try and get his Great Wall Gatehouse up, and from there on out, try to turtle it up, try to spam the elite Palace Guards, try and force VortiX into like a one-dimensional composition, then mix it up with maybe some more mobile units to finish up all the ranged units that VortiX is going to make in response to that. But it looks like the Palace Guard that he has massed right now, they're just all going to be falling to these crossbows that are out on the map, and yeah, the Nest of Bees is also going to get taken down, and now Puppypaw knows, and he's going to be calling the GG now. First game of the set is going to go to VortiX.
Indeed, VortiX securing game number 1 over here. He is the favorite of this set based on the current standings in the leaderboard of the Elite Classic. VortiX occupying that 4th spot, whereas for Puppypaw, he's at spot number 8 right now. So kind of at that edge of getting eliminated from the playoffs / staying in. Of course, we still have, aside from this day, 2 additional play days, but for him, a defeat over here would knock him out of the top 8. Whereas for VortiX, he's making a push towards that top 2 position so that he could play right in the semifinals when the playoffs begin, instead of having to play through the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that would obviously be a really, really advantageous position for him here. We once again see here in the food income, it's just, it's a distraction, to say it with Marine Lord's words, and food income really, really low here for Puppypaw. He just got denied at all the right moments in time, idled so much, and then the farm transition just coming in at the worst point possible. And yeah, VortiX just making excellent usage of his mobility. He just attacked from every single angle during this game, and It really showed. Military count looked somewhat even here, but at every single point, VortiX, he just had the higher quality unit mass, and then towards the later stage of the game, it just completely fell apart for puppypaw.
Yeah, that one fight. Well, actually, we're looking at two fights over here with the graph, but especially that one fight where puppypaw didn't have the upgrades, but VortiX did. That was so painful for Puppy. That's where he lost any kind of momentum to kind of break out of his base. The second fight where he just lost most of his forces was more like a cleanup from VortiX rather than the actual game-deciding fight.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if puppypaw just supervised his technologies there in Castle Age, he would have taken a much, much better fight, and that would have set him up in order to just take more map control later on during that game and potentially just get something out on the map in order to do some damage to VortiX as well, because this entire game, VortiX was completely untouched. This entire economy, just no harassment done at all so far. But look at this. All right, we got mountain clearing here. It's gonna be Delhi versus HRE, and HRE, they are the favorite civilization usually in this matchup. I gotta say though, I've never seen Delhi picked on mountain clearing before.
The Spanish bros love this pick, by the way. In particular, VortiX does. So I'm very curious how he's going to play this. One of the takeaways that I had watching a lot of scrims between multiple players, actually, but especially scrims involving the Spanish bros, is that they play this map a lot. So one thing I'm certain about is that VortiX and Lucifer are super familiar with this map. I'm actually unsure about the extent of puppypaw's familiarity with the meta on this map, because this is not a map. Like, this is one of those maps where you can get tilted very easily, and you might just end up saying, well, I'm not going to practice on this map, I just hope it's not going to be played.
Don't forget, this is puppypaw's home map.
True.
He chose this one. He
Fair
wanted to
enough.
play on mountain clearing, and I mean, it feels like VortiX kind of gambled on puppypaw choosing English on mountain clearing, because English obviously is the most popular civ on mountain clearing. Just because you have those longbows, the range is insane. There's minimum distance between the two bases of the players, and that's why he picked Delhi. But now the HRE pick from puppypaw actually working really, really well against VortiX's Delhi pick here. And now Delhi, when they go for Tower of Victory with like mass archers, they can kind of kite back men-at-arms for a long, long time. But on a map like this, on mountain clearing, where the distance between the two bases is so low, they can only kite for a certain amount of time until they're suddenly with their back against the wall of their own base. And I mean, we'll find out soon how this game is going to go, because we're already hearing the in-game sounds. And here we go into game number 2 between puppypaw and VortiX. VortiX with the Delhi Sultanate against puppypaw with the Holy Roman Empire on mountain clearing.
Yeah, you mentioned in the pregame, we had an option for puppypaw to go with the English. He decided to go with the HRE, so that approach from VortiX to kind of try to counterpick the English with the Delhi may not work so well, especially because of the small distance between the players. Men-at-arms may become much more viable for puppypaw. And I guess the question becomes, are we possibly going to see the Minework Palace build over here from Puppy?
The Minework, I mean, it is an option, but on a map like this, on mountain clearing, where you're basically guaranteed at least 2 relics with how close they are to your base, rarely will we see. I mean, the Minework, it's nice, but I think Fast Castle with Regnitz just works so much better, and the Archon just makes the Fast Castle so much more possible, because look at that. The deer are right next to his base. He can just be gathering from deer really early on in time, and you really want that extra inspiration from the Archon for that. So I think Minework could be an option on other maps. On this map, I think it's even less favorable.
Yeah, a bit of a skirmish between the scouts over here. VortiX trying to make it more difficult for Puppy to push in all those deer. Looks like no surprise so far, pretty standard starts. On the other side, we see the same from VortiX. So far so good. Pretty passive Dark Age over here. Nothing out of the ordinary. I guess, especially given that this map is very unique compared to many of the maps involved in this tournament, we can talk a little about the win conditions here. So, how does one player approach this specific map?
All right, so Delhi, they're kind of being played one-dimensionally here around that sacred site. They really want that sacred site as soon as possible. They're going to send early spearmen out. or archers in order to wall it up. I guess in case of VortiX, he's probably going to go for that really early Tower of Victory. I don't think he's going to be playing with early horsemen just because on this map, resources are so close to your starting TC, it's going to be very tough to find any damage with your horsemen. So very likely just going to be opening up with either archers or spearmen on this map and going to be going for some walls on that middle sacred side. Now, puppypaw, he can play this multiple ways. First of all, that Archon, holy, that's a really good Archon. It's going to be covering wood, it's going to be covering stone, it's going to be covering all the food, and it's going to be covering gold. That's an SSS plus Archon right there, if we've ever seen one. Holy, that's such a good Archon, it's actually insane.
Yeah, it's a lovely chapel spot indeed. On the other side, it's going to be the Tower of Victory being built by VortiX, so as you said, it's going to be that Tower of Victory-based archer approach initially. So we'll have to see whether the response from puppypaw to that is going to be men-at-arms, or if he's going to play a semi-fast castle. With the base layout he has, he could definitely justify playing into Castle Age, though.
Yeah, but seeing how much wood he's gathering right now from these straggler trees, it looks to be a second TC play from him, which also works really well with the H3 against Delhi. I think actually it's a much more safer approach to playing this matchup because you can get a really nice H-up timing even with that second TC. And I mean, the Delhi, at most, they're gonna have one sacred site on this map anyways. Prelate has to move inside the Archon. There we go. Now he's gonna be moving inside the Archon, gonna be blessing every single villager here. That's out for puppypaw right now. But actually, looking at it now, he doesn't have a single villager on stone. Maybe it's not going to be a second TC. Maybe it's going to be a couple of units early on here in the Feudal Age and then just a fast castle behind it. I'm a little bit confused right now as to what his game plan is. Maybe he hasn't decided himself yet, but yeah, it feels a little bit split right now with what he's going for.
Yeah, there's the barracks coming out, will be spotted immediately by VortiX. On the other side, it's going to be a blacksmith opening for the time being. Remains to be seen if we see a second blacksmith here from VortiX. And of course, Sanctity will be on the way as well. There is only one sacred site on this map, so whenever you capture that with the Delhi, or even the HRE, the timer will begin, and that's going to put your opponent on a very significant timer, making it much more difficult to just turtle out the game.
Now, we've seen HRE many times go for like this mass man-at-arm kind of play against the Delhi, but I feel like especially the Spanish brothers, with that Tower of Victory play, with the bonus attack speed that the archers get, they've been some of the first players that really managed to take a lot of victories against the HRE with the Delhi, and yeah, it could be kind of dangerous here for puppypaw. If he gets out-microed by these early archers, they can actually take down men-at-arms relatively quickly with that enhanced attack speed. So yeah, we already see a scholar inside of that archer range. And first upgrade is gonna be the Pierce damage upgrade.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big thing. Marching drills just now coming in for the men-at-arms. One of the things that VortiX does have is a scout in front of the base of puppypaw, so he knows fully well when the men-at-arms are moving out. He also can keep an eye out on the men-at-arms numbers, so he's gonna have a pretty good piece of information coming in from there. He will know fully well whether he can take a fight or not, and it looks like he will be given time to build up his archer numbers. He's up to 6. Ranged attack upgrade is pretty much halfway done for him. And you see he's also trying to chip away with some damage over here. Might even try to harass the lumberjacks.
Yeah, now there's gonna be a small palisade wall being dropped here by puppypaw. Means that actually Scout is gonna try and block that. Yeah, that palisade wall isn't gonna finish, but at the same time, I mean, the archers are not in. Oh, Scout actually goes down here. I was gonna say that this is probably still not a fight that the archers can take quite yet, and I mean, the men-at-arms, he can just micro them back and heal them back up with a Prelate right now, and now we see a men-at-arm actually in the wood line here right now for VortiX, and I mean, the villagers are gonna take that one down, but it's still a lot of idle time on these units here right now.
That's a lot of idle time, but it's also very pricey men-at-arms. Looks like a decent fight here for VortiX. He's doing a decent job microing these forces. But behind this, puppypaw is not fully committing to the men-at-arms. He's actually working his way towards Castle Age, and that's where it gets very interesting. Especially because, as you said, you are guaranteed 2 relics, so the boost from the relics for the HRE comes in instantly.
Yeah, this is definitely the right. All right.
Yeah,
Huh?
I was about to ask you, like, Ragnitz or Burgrave, but I was like, well, you have 2 relics guaranteed. You probably go Ragnitz and just drop a second barracks, right? Well, turns out, not so much. Sanctity will be finishing just now for VortiX, but puppypaw is on the way to Castle Age with the Burgrave Palace.
I don't see it. I just don't see the Burgrave in this situation here. Oh, Pumba.
Gotta be cautious. That boar in the middle is just such an annoying piece of terrain, really, or well, not really terrain, but nature, I guess.
Yeah, Gaia really not favoring VortiX in this one. Does delay the Sacred Side cap by quite a bit, and I mean the Scout he can come in for round number 2 here on that poor Scholar, and VortiX he's far away, very far away from the next stage. Question is gonna be, even with all the upgrades on the Men-at-Arms. Oh, Scout.
Pay attention,
Scout.
Puppy! Oh,
no.
He gets away with like 1 HP, and now he's pulling it onto the Scholar. That's such a low HP Scout.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. Okay, so now he's getting in his own monastery. Actually, Archer's diving. Archer's diving the base of puppypaw. Yeah, that's really bad, because it means that the archers, they're not going to be able to kite. They're not going to be able to kite at all.
They have been decimated by the TC fire. They are being chased by Castle Age Men-at-Arms now. In the middle, look at that. That 1 Men-at-Arms from Castle Age, now almost invincible against those archers. Archers will get cleaned up here as well. Relics will be secured by Puppy. And as you mentioned, VortiX doesn't have the Sacred Site. He doesn't have terrifying archer numbers. And he's nowhere close to Castle Age.
Yeah, right now it's all about the income for puppypaw. His income isn't looking that great right now, just because there was a little bit of idle time caused every now and then. Sacred Site victory is approaching, but yeah, at this point, VortiX just knows. He knows that he can't win that one, and I mean, that one was kind of destined to happen, the way it played out. I think it could have probably gone either way, even with Burgrave or Ragnitz Cathedral, the way it played out. But yeah, it looks like VortiX just knew that he wouldn't have the capacity in order to deal with what puppypaw had coming for him there.
Indeed, such a well-played game by puppypaw. If you think about it, he opened with the Men-at-Arms, went into the Archon Chapel, a terrifyingly good Archon Chapel, by the way, gets a couple of Men-at-Arms out, forces VortiX to commit very heavily to the archers, but then just plays that semi-fast castle approach, and then Burgrave gave him just enough production to get those initial 6-7 Men-at-Arms out. That just pushes back the archers, and as you said, VortiX with no Sacred Site control throughout the entire game was just impossible for him to get to Castle Age.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked about earlier as well that VortiX might have just anticipated English here on this map. Puppypaw picking the HRE would have been pretty good against any civilization that VortiX had left. He still had the French, he still had the Mongols. Mongols probably would have been arguably the better choice overall. I think they could have done decently against both the English and the HRE. Delhi is just something that we typically never see on Mountain Clearing, and puppypaw took that game convincingly. But now we already see what civilizations are going to be playing against each other in game number 3 here. It's going to be the Mongols against the Abbasid Dynasty and Woodwall, and I gotta say, this is a matchup we've seen quite a couple of times so far when it comes to Woodwall.
Yeah, that's it's also a map that we don't commonly see here on the mainstream, to speak of, actually. So it's going to be fun to take a look at. But yeah, Abbasids obviously have that strong economy based off either the TCs or possibly even trade. Whereas on the other side, Mongols just that versatility when it comes to the strategies that they can employ, whether that's multiple TCs chopping down the trees, whether that's towering the middle, kind of chopping into that forest, whether that's also trade on their end. There are just so many tools available here for the Mongols on this map.
Yeah, exactly. And Abbasid, they can also just, with that wood wall in the middle, with that massive distance between these two players, it means that there's very likely not going to be an outpost rush coming out from the Mongols, or if it is, it's going to be significantly delayed. It means that the Abbasid is kind of free to kind of make a second or maybe even a third TC in the Feudal Age and just kind of boom away. And yeah, it can become really, really scary against a fully boomed up Abbasid. But yeah, as you said, Mongols with the trade as a potential kind of equalizer here definitely can't be ignored by the Abbasid.
Indeed, VortiX versus puppypaw. It's a 1-1 right now. Let's take a quick look at today's standings so far, because we have quite a few sets conclude. Obviously, many of you folks have been asking what these rounds mean. Round 7, round 8, round 9. We basically have 15 rounds, because each player plays 16 rounds in total, or 15 rounds rather. And as you see, what we have right now, this is the overall standings. Marine Lord leads. So far haven't yet dropped the game, but we will see him play against B in the upcoming set. But if we take a look at the daily scores, we can take a look at how things are shaping out today, both here on the B stream and of course off stream as well. We have quite a few matchups going on. Okay, there we go. So, what do we have here? Once again, this might be a little confusing, but folks, everybody plays 3 rounds each day. Obviously, the order in which they play their games within each play day varies from player to player, just to accommodate for whatever stream schedule we have and whatever schedule the players have. So that's the reason why you see a lot of 0-0s in round 7, despite some sets having been played already in round 8 and 9.
So this is interesting. So here we can even see the scores from the games that we haven't all been able to watch yet, just because, I mean, we have some games that are on the B stream, but as you said, Lidakor, some games are also scheduled off stream, just because there are so many of them happening. Now we can see puppypaw, he just won his game against VortiX, so this is soon gonna be 1-1 here. We see Recon won against Numidan 2-0. Louis won versus I'm Magic 2-0. That's impressive. And wait, yeah, and the Muslim leading 2-0 against Cat. But it looks like our game number 3 actually just started. We already hear the in-game sound, so let's just quickly jump back into our game number 3 here.
Indeed, in we go. Welcome, folks, to game number 3 here between VortiX and puppypaw. This is day number 3 of the Elite Classic, and we have a decider game in this best of 3 on Woodwall. Spawning in on the left is VortiX playing as the Mongols in blue, and to the north of the map it is puppypaw with the Abbasid Dynasty in red.
Here we go, indeed, and oh my, this is one of these Woodwall spots that we all know and love. Look at just how many berries are towards one side of the map there. Next to that neutral market on the right side, there are 5 berry patches next to each other. This is Abbasid paradise if we've ever seen it, and puppypaw immediately scouts it out. And a town center here means not only does he have a ton of food access, also means that he's going to be able to deny trade at least from one of the neutral markets. And man, geez, that's a lot of berries.
Yeah, I mean, that's an understatement. That's the perfect scenario to be in. Now, it looks like VortiX is going to play some level of aggression over here going into Dark Age. There's the barracks coming out on the Ovu. Will likely be scouted by puppypaw's scout that's just circling around the base of VortiX right now. And I guess the question becomes, with that barracks becoming a reality for VortiX, is what exactly is the target right now for VortiX here in Dark Age with those spears? Is it about shutting down the stone, or is it about doing more here?
I guess it's probably mostly about just delaying that second TC. It's unlikely that puppypaw is gonna actually go for military wing here early on. He could if he plans to play this aggressively in the Feudal Age, which does make sense on some levels if he wants to really delay or just deny trade or anything like that. But at the same time, if you want to deny trade, you're most likely going to be going for horsemen, and those don't really benefit from military wing. But guess he is going to go for military wing after all, Caster's Curse. So I guess it's still going to help the archers that he's very likely going to be looking for. Also means that this forward here from VortiX isn't going to achieve a lot, if anything at all, because as soon as puppypaw ages up, he's going to be having 2 archers to deal with these men-at-arms. Not men-at-arms, spearmen, excuse me.
That would be scary. 2 men-at-arms in Dark Age with the Mongols. Could you imagine that?
I mean, they're getting pseudo early knights next patch in Feudal Age, but wouldn't want to dream of giving the devs any ideas here with Dark Age Men-at-Arms or Mongols as well.
Dark Age double training men-at-arms. Now that's where it gets scary. Anyways, Puppypaw is on the way to Feudal Age with the military wing. It's going to be 4 spears out for VortiX. We'll be able to push away those gold miners, but you see Puppypaw has managed to get enough for whatever tech he wants to squeeze in. It's 147 gold, so he was just fine with this. More interesting question, I guess, is VortiX will be awarded with some bounty for torching down the mining camp, but obviously that's going to take a little bit more time because it's in the influence radius of that House of Wisdom.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen in time. It's only going to be 20 seconds until these archers are going to be popping out. And worst case, Puppypaw can just pull a single villager to repair that halfway through. And yeah, now also another barracks coming out here from Puppypaw. Looks to be upgrading his spearmen as soon as they're made. Yeah, this mining camp isn't going to get torched at all. That's not going to happen here. And now VortiX is going to be aging up with that silver tree, so it's going to be a trade play from him. Now, the spearmen are going to get repelled. And yeah, I mean, this map is honestly still quite good when it comes to trade. So relatively easy to wall one of these sides. It's not a big investment. Obviously, as the Mongols, you don't have that benefit with the walls. But also means that you only need like 1 to 2 outposts in order to cover the entire width of these like sides in order to just kind of reinforce that.
Yeah, I honestly love the trade play here. We have seen this kind of becoming the response to Chinese being used on this map as well. And it kind of plays around the idea that if your opponent is playing a very defensive, turtley game with multiple TCs, you have all the map to use, and you can use that to get some trade going. Now, Puppy does have some archers and some spearmen going, so VortiX still needs to be cautious. But if Puppy's playing very defensive and very kind of compressed inside his base, then VortiX can get away with a very efficient trade here, as you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And now we see Puppypaw is going to go for that second TC, so it's not going to be as cheap as it could have been with the economic wing. Instead, it's going to be able to get map control very early on. Also really important when you play against a civilization with the Mongols that have the option of trading is with that map control, it means that he's going to be in a position to deny or delay that trade early on. Now, archer range is going to be made from VortiX here, and Puppypaw, he's invested into an early barracks. He's going to need another archer range of his own if he wants to make any additional archers here. None to be seen yet, so very likely first going to go for that TC. And now we got a scout actually sitting on that landmark, meaning that as long as that scout is alive, that landmark is actually not going to be able to be placed. If he is going to be putting that scout on that. I mean, Khan in Feudal Age does a little bit more damage than it does in the Dark Age, so the scout probably can't be sticking around forever, but could still prove to be a little bit annoying. Maybe for now he's just going to be keeping track on where that silver tree is going to be moving. No, okay, actually looks like the scout is going to get down.
Yeah, that's a bit of a misstep here by Puppypaw. Probably didn't realize the archers was harassing this goal to the south, but he loses the scout, so he's deprived of vision. But look at what he's doing. He's moving to the east, where all the berries are at, but also where that one neutral trade post is. So this trade post is right now out of the question for VortiX. He's going to have to play around the other one.
Yeah, exactly. That trade post is not going to go his way. But and again, I guess he scouted that at some point on the map, so he decided to go for the other one either way. Now archers. I mean, VortiX, he already has 8 archers, and this is where the double production really comes into play.
Yeah, we have a bit of a scuffle to the south. It looks like Puppypaw is pushing back those forces, but as you mentioned, archer number is increasing for VortiX. He's going to start picking apart the spearman. Actually pulls away the weak archer as well, saves it from getting picked off. Takes a good fight here, and this is critical. He needs this southern flank because this is where he wants to direct his trade towards. He won't be able to stop this TC, but as you mentioned, he was planning to build around and play around that other trade post to the north. Well, that's not the most efficient trade ever, but he's going to have to retask them to the market to the south.
Yeah, that's going to get fixed. But most importantly, this was just this was just for puppypaw. Like, he only bought time there in order to secure that that TC, get that up, and now he's going to be making much more mobile horsemen. He's going to be sending them around the map towards that trade there. Now, VortiX, he's really good when it comes to just keeping a couple of units and like certain key locations and not accidentally microing them back to any other spot on the map. He's also banking up a lot of food, so this gives him the option of either sticking it out in Feudal Age or maybe going for a really fast Castle Age transition here in this game. But puppypaw, he obviously wants to do damage now in Feudal Age. He wants to deny that trade as much as possible. These 4 traders actually carry enough gold in order to get VortiX all the way up to Castle Age.
That's sick. That's just such a crazy amount of gold. And you see, puppypaw only has 2 horsemen to work with. So it's going to be challenging to snipe down all those traders. And back on the north, there is enough presence for VortiX to defend those traders, and down south, he's also trying to position himself such that he can harass these berry villagers a tiny bit.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to harass them, and he's actually just moving by them. Guess he wants to maybe damage puppypaw's woodline a little bit, because now puppypaw, he is on archers, and it is natural in this matchup you need to make archers at some point. And this actually gives puppypaw an opportunity to delay the trade here. Now he's pushing into the gold mine villagers from VortiX, but that's just a little bit of a bait. Like, VortiX is fine pulling those villagers back. What he really doesn't want to lose is these traders. But now puppypaw, this could be a crucial time if he gets to pull like snipe maybe 2 or 3 of these traders. That's gonna be huge. That's gonna be a lot of income wasted. The horseman just in time, perfectly in time here for VortiX.
Huge horsemen come in, and this will mean that the traders will drop off the gold. Behind this one, a couple of archers managed to sneak past, and puppypaw could easily get himself harassed. You see, most of the trade has been dropped off, and there is the push. Archers will pick apart some of the villagers here on the gold mine. They could also harass the lumberjacks. Oh, traders going back the wrong way, though, and this is a beautiful catch here for Puppy. Could get away with a couple of picks on the traders, especially once he snipes that one spearman. Archer still playing around. Horseman actually not focusing the opposing horseman, though. And it looks like now we have a bit of a regrouping happening here from VortiX. A couple of traders got caught off guard, but the gold has been delivered. So now VortiX is sitting on a bank of 800.
Yeah, but he has to continue investing into Feudal Age, so might just buy some resources with that gold bank that he now has, or get some upgrades in. And both players just investing into Feudal Age now, both players trying to mass up a large army. VortiX also getting some more spearmen out, so with the spearmen is going to have an answer to these horsemen out. Archer count right now is looking really, really favorable for VortiX right now. He's sitting on 10 archers, making even more right now. And it's just really, really key for puppypaw to not fall behind too far when it comes to the archer mass. Also important that he grabs the bootcamp upgrade. I wonder if he even has the bootcamp upgrade yet at this point in time. He does. Okay, that's really important. Getting that bonus HP means that these archers can tank up 1 to 2 more shots from the opponent's archers. And that obviously is huge when it means that the critical mass to kill your archers is going to be too higher than for your opponent.
Yeah, VortiX, he's getting ready to have that second delivery with the traders, actually. Now camel archers are being mixed in by puppypaw, so he's going to try to shut down that second batch of gold that's coming in. And on the other side, VortiX is now fortifying this location, gets a critical tower up, possibly. He has a lot of archers to work with here, gets the first pick. He doesn't see those units pushing through the stealth forest, actually. Looks like puppypaw will call off his forces, meaning that the tower goes up, kind of providing that safety that you want here to the south, and making it very difficult for puppypaw to do a lot of damage to these traders.
Yeah, the food economy here for puppypaw is going through roof, though, with all of these villagers on the berries. He's able to mass up a lot of horsemen, now getting some raids in on the gold from VortiX. VortiX, he's funneling all of the gold that he's getting right now into other resources or into upgrades in order to just pump out more and more units right now. And it shows. He's leading with the army mass right now, 32 to 21. He's even getting siege engineering, potentially trying to get a ram out in order to push onto that TC that's on the berries. Just because he knows these berries are insane food income right now for puppypaw. And he definitely needs something to deal with them. Now puppypaw dropping even more range, dropping them with like 12 villagers. He really wants these ranges to be up fast.
He needs to spend those resources. He cannot wait at this point.
He really does. Yeah, he needs to rush them out these units out as soon as possible, because he needs to do something to the trade soon. But man, VortiX, he's so active here on the map right now, also pushing in on all of these different sides, and the army from puppypaw is really, really far away at this point, and I guess we get to the point where puppypaw, he really needs some, either just a couple of spearmen, just like VortiX is doing, on his important resource spots on the map, or he needs to look for some defensive buildings instead. But man, look at the resource income right now for VortiX: 1,000 food, 400 wood, 1,000 gold per minute. This means serious business.
It does. He's got 2 battering rams coming in. He could work towards a very aggressive Feudal Age push, could also flirt with the idea of Castle Age, and the lovely thing here is that Puppy needs to keep some forces back at home to kind of deal with those horsemen that swoop in every once in a while. But at the same time, he also needs to protect this critical food eco down south. And as good as that food eco is right now, if he ever loses out of this, suddenly he goes from 1,500 food per minute to net 0, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. If he loses this position, also means that the villagers have to travel a long, long time. So that food is going to stay at 0 for quite a while. Now, the army for puppypaw actually has surpassed count for VortiX. He's got a ton of archers. He's getting to that really, really critical archer count. The only thing that's bothering me right now, though, is the vision. He doesn't have a scout with his army.
Yeah, he's kind of diving in blind over here. We'll take the fight under the tower. Spearman trying to shield the archers from the horsemen. Horsemen swooping to the north. Camel archer getting caught off guard over there. And it looks like this is going to be a retreat from puppypaw. As you said, he didn't have the vision, kind of popped out of the stealth forest just to run into a huge army, and it looks like now VortiX is on the pursuit. We'll think twice of that, we'll fall back to the safety of that tower. But at the same time, his trade is still going on. You mentioned this, he's got a crazy resource income, and he's still motivated to get that ramp push going.
I'm feeling more and more confident about puppypaw's position, though. He's massing so many units. All of these units, like the archers at the very least, they do have the bootcamp upgrade. So when it comes to numbers, they are just straight up better than the archers that VortiX has on the field. Also, the horseman mass is just incredibly huge right now. And what that does is it means that if there's a point where VortiX loses a spearman and there's still a significant mass of horsemen alive like there is right now, it's going to be really, really tough for VortiX to hold that.
Yeah, puppypaw once again diving in here. Now his army looks a lot more convincing than what we have from VortiX. Doesn't have a lot of spears, this is just archers and horsemen, but he can focus down the spears, and of course, as you mentioned, his archers are just so much better than what VortiX has. You really feel like the issue here for VortiX is that he cannot really spend the gold right now, other than going into Castle Age or buying food/wood. But for Puppy, all his food income from the berries gets channeled into an army.
Yeah, puppypaw is now also going to be going up to next age, probably with Culture Wing. Yep, Culture Wing is going to be coming in. But the timing is going to be different here for these players, just because Abbasid, they obviously can't rush up that age up. And, alright, puppypaw is doing the correct thing. He's splitting up his army, and he's going to try to raid the trade at multiple angles, at multiple points during that trade route. He's also walling in one of his sides, so that also means that he's going to be at least safe from one angle here on the map. He must know that the Kurultai is going to be coming in sometime soon, so he just tries to delay VortiX a little bit at this point, wait for his age up as well to be coming in.
Yeah, this is
and I mean, if the age up comes in for puppypaw, he's going to have access to that composite bow upgrade from his House of Wisdom. With the composite bow upgrade, what that means is that his archers are going to be firing 30% faster. And once he gets that upgrade, it means that there's just straight up not going to be a scenario in which VortiX is going to be able to take really good fights unless he's going for mangonels.
Yeah, very fair point. And it's lovely to see how puppypaw is using that cavalry to buy the time he needs. He was beaten to Castle Age by about 45 seconds, but he's also distracting VortiX, forcing VortiX to kind of follow these horsemen to the north with his own, but this means that VortiX cannot really take an engagement at the south, and this is kind of the phenomenon that's buying the time for puppypaw to get to Castle Age and get the critical composite bow upgrade. As Core is highlighting, get some siege weapons on the field for the Abbasids as well, and really force the issue once he gets to Castle.
It looks like VortiX is looking for his own timing, though, as it looks like he's also now starting to push onto the side of puppypaw. Some units from puppypaw are going to get caught out here, just some horsemen for now. Now puppypaw is gonna retreat. He's immediately grabbing veterancy and the composite bow upgrade, and should also be looking for the +1, +2 pierce damage upgrade from his blacksmith. Instead, is gonna be upgrading. I'm not sure if that should be Spearman. Yeah, it's gonna be Spearman. He's gonna be upgrading his Spearman, which he doesn't have too many of right now. But VortiX, this is gonna be a really, really great timing push here. He has the 2 rams out on the field right now. And with these rams, he's gonna be able to take down all of these buildings that are placed very, very forward from puppypaw.
Exactly. puppypaw is losing out on the berries, he's losing out on all the production buildings. He needs to sacrifice this forward base to get the upgrades he needs. But the Kurota is moving up as well. And the key thing here is that if puppypaw loses out on this army, he's gonna have basically no chance to recover from there. So he needs a fight that's won over here. His archer numbers are looking very promising though as the fight begins. A lot of cavalry, also some camel archers to support. So all of these lancers are being debuffed from the Mongol player. And now composite bows are in. Kurotai just now setting up, and this is a beautiful surround here by puppypaw. He's jumping on these. Spearman also pushing in, and it looks like it's a rout so far. VortiX is gonna just go back to the safety of the Kurotai. Lancer still being debuffed by the camel archers. Not a lot of heavy units over here for Puppy, but he's got some spears to chase with, and it looks like he pushes away the first push, gets rid of the rams, and he might even just surround the Kurotai as is.
You say they're debuffed, but there's actually no camel archer remaining. VortiX sniped all of those out as soon as the fight began. They just didn't get microed back by VortiX to the back of the line, and now Mangonel coming out. But yeah, the Kurultai is going to get destroyed, and that's actually such a huge thing to happen here in this game, because once the Kurultai is destroyed, it means like basically your H3 advantage from the late landmark, it's non-existent. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Landmark victory approaching, we see. It's unlikely to be a landmark victory overall, but now puppypaw, he has a firm army lead. He just needs to push into the trade as soon as possible.
Yeah, as you mentioned, camel archers have been sniped down. Prior to that fight, they did just enough to push back VortiX, and now there is no Kurotai. It's almost double the army, and you mentioned this, boot camp, composite bows, critical upgrades for the Abbasid that just make this army worth even more than what you would actually think. Combine that with the fact that it's almost twice the army for puppypaw, and you really feel like this is gonna be a very difficult fight for VortiX to take.
Yeah, and with bootcamp, it just takes so much for these archers to go down. Now there are barely any spearmen remaining for VortiX. Meanwhile, puppypaw, he still has a good chunk of spearmen and a meat shield with the horsemen as well. And yeah, the archers, I mean, with the mass that he has right now, he's able to two-shot the knights, the lancers, and I mean, the archers shoot so fast that these shots are coming out insanely quickly. Is splitting up his army now. Archer's a little bit exposed towards the Lancers, is still shooting with the Mangonel, but micro coming in from VortiX here. Lancer slowly but surely dying though. Is trading out his army quite efficiently here. At the same time, the Horsemen are looking to be contesting the trade as well.
Yeah, this is still a great push by puppypaw. He's trading army, but he's got twice the army as his opponent. He's shutting down the trade with the Horsemen. VortiX is down to just 20 army. He's still up against 60. Barely any reinforcements showing up for VortiX on the other side.
Mangonel shot! Oh!
Beautiful shot! And there goes VortiX. puppypaw takes the game off the back of that Abbasid Archer flood. What a turnaround, really. We had some shaky moments in this entire set for puppypaw, and he turns it around, wins a critical set against VortiX. We talked about this. For him, every single set is crucial. He's so close to being out of that top 8 that goes into the playoffs. This is a huge win for him.